Programming multi-directional speed, concepts, drills, 34 videos to help you get even faster and win the 1 yard race in 360 degrees of movement. So we're going to learn how to go from drills like this, super rudimentary, just learning how to dissociate the shoulders and the hips, to things like this, the straight back, crossover, and return, into even higher level stuff like our 4-cone, and this drill is just the crossover and return as well, but this 4-cone partner reaction mirror drill. Multi-directional speed, being faster in all directions of movement, is trainable, but it takes more intention, more plan, more thoughtfulness than simply just playing tag and simply just changing a few different variables amongst chaos and all of those things. Now, I love those drills. I think it makes a lot of sense, but if we understand what the skills are of multi-directional speed, and if we know how to layer those in a sequential and logical way, then we can get good at the actual skills of multi-directional speed, and then we can put it all together with those super agility like drills. So we can get better results by being a little bit more intentional. So for this video, let's go over the concepts, the skills, the processes, and just overall understand what we're doing. And then over the course of 34, you heard that right, 34 videos of the drill series and this very sequential way to do it and program and progress these, so any athlete of any age can understand these drills and get better at them over time, but also real life examples of my athletes doing drills, and you can see me mixing and matching, modifying variables, creating variations, and what I liked and what I didn't like, and things like that, as well as solutions for doing this with large groups of athletes, which is always one of the X factors when doing speed training. So what is multi-directional speed? And of course, being fast in all directions, but I thought that my boss had a very good succinct saying and way to say this of, multi-directional speed is winning the 1 yard race in 360 degrees of movement. So basically, who can get going in the right direction and get that initial burst fastest and best, or winning the 5 yard race all around you. So basically, the most important thing is going to be getting yourself in the right position or right direction and winning those first, basically 3 steps in that direction. And I can break down these skills in basically two main things. Controlling the shoulders and the hips, being able to dissociate, because one of the biggest constraints in playing sports is, using your eyes, tracking the defense, offense, whatever it may be. But in multi-directional speed, and in this video, and what I think is the hardest, is working behind you. So when the sport and the action is in front of you, how well can you work behind you? So basically, can we separate the shoulders and the hips to get the hips going where we need them to go? And then the second piece is going to be how you use the shins. Can you reposition the shins? Because the shins are a direction arrow. Wherever your shins are pointing, that's where, when you push, your body will go. That's why when you do a vertical jump, your shins are pretty vertical. And when you do a broad jump, you have some shin drop and your shins get into this forward angle. So when you jump out, obviously you jump forwards. So can you reposition the hips and basically create space, because your hips are in the way when you're trying to move backwards? And can you reposition the shins to get them in the right angle so you can actually push and move? And then I think it's also important to talk about the actual difference between chain of direction and agility. And consequently, if you understand what makes them different, then that's one variable that you can modify and tweak to make drills easier or harder. Or if you're really trying to teach, focus on this. If you're really trying to imprint that skill, to hammer it down, then you should do things that are a little bit more agility. So you learn through chain of direction, and this is basically pre-planned movements. Hey, I know I'm going to shuffle 5 yards, then I'm going to cross over and stop. And then I just say go and do it. You know what you're doing beforehand when you are changing direction. And then we challenge these things through agility, which is reactionary. So the athlete might know that they have to do a certain skill, but they don't know left or right. And the coach is going to point, clap, say it. The partner is going to pick a side. Or maybe it is like tag, where they really don't know what's going on. So chain of direction is when you know what you're doing beforehand, no matter what. And agility is where you're taking in information. They have to react, pick the right movement, and then execute that at a high level. So we learn when we know what we're doing, and we hammer it down and we challenge it when we have to figure it out on the spot and put it all together with agility. When programming these, there's two really awesome ways that I found to do these drills. Number one is progressed through regular just training and a workout, right? I know that I'm going to focus on these 4 drills for 2 weeks. Let's hammer these skills. And I'm going to progress these drills into the next set of 4, the next set of 4, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're always going to end with some sort of agility drill just to kind of bring it all together, get a little bit of conditioning, some cardio, and just have fun at the end and kind of bring it all together, right? So just typically how you would write and progress workouts and drills. But what I think is a super, super awesome way to do this as well is microdosed in a warm-up. So basically just picking, I think when I was with Northwestern Baseball, it's basically just like 3 drills on our Sunday warm-ups and then 1 other day during the week. So basically we got 6 super high quality drills, just like 2 sets of each. And then that was just part of the warm-up that helped bridge the gap between our, beginning of the warm-up, general movement, things like that. And obviously we can't do all-out sprinting right away. So drills like this, awesome option for filling in that gap in the middle of the warm-up. And also check off the box of microdosing speed, because we know speed, at least sprinting speed, but we can probably put multi-directional speed in there of 5 days plus or minus 3 days. So hitting this once, twice a week, it doesn't take that many reps. Microdosing drills like this are such an easy way to finish the warm-up and get that good multi-directional speed dose in. So the drill series, very easy to understand, comprehend, wrap your head around. Basically, this is all that we're modifying. So first, it's important to say that all of this is going to be with a bounce, or basically think if the athlete is ready to go in front of you in an athletic stance, are they standing still or are they like slowly bouncing their feet, or quickly, I guess. And you'll see in all of these videos coming up. But I think it's important because that's automatically going to make them have to reposition their shins, because the shins are basically off the ground, or their feet are off the ground whenever you initiate the drill, right? If it's just a coach point. So I think it's a lot more athletic, because often in sports, athletes are moving or staying loose, or they just did a creep step if it's like baseball, a prep step, baseball, softball, things like that. So I think it's such an easy way to make these drills way, way better and more realistic by bouncing your feet beforehand. And I think it's important to also not underestimate the value of getting some really good quarter hip flips in, which that was the first video that I showed, and I'll show it again. But so those 2 foundational things, and then we have what direction we are working in. So if you're familiar with the 8-vector system, you have front, back, left, right, and then you have the front left, front right diagonal, and then the back left, back right diagonal. So for these drills, I focus on sideways, so left, right. I focus on backwards diagonals each way, and then straight back each way. So it's basically 6 movements: left back diagonal, straight back to the left, and then right back diagonal, and then straight back to the right. So those are our 6 directions that we can do these things. We have our 1-steps, our shuffles, and our crossovers. And then within those, we can do a 1-step and stop, and you'll see all of these drills, but 1-step and stop, we can do a 1-step and then immediately come back. We can do a shuffle and pause and then walk back, or we can do a shuffle there and a shuffle back in one motion, and same thing with the crossover. Crossover 1-step there, pause, crossover 1-step back immediately, right? So there's basically 6 movements: 1-step, shuffle, crossover, and then do all of those instead of 1 and stop, there and come back, so and return. And there's combinations of things. So like a crossover into a shuffle into a crossover, and kind of things like that. So we know what direction we're going. We know what movements we have. We can make it harder with the and return, and then we can kind of put it all together. So basically, as long as you understand that, then it's super easy from there to just mix and match, to change it up, to match the level of skill of your athlete, to provide a continuous challenge. Or also, let's say you picked a drill and the athletes are looking really, really good. Then say, okay, well, I'm just going to progress it then. Just because I wrote this one drill on a piece of paper doesn't mean that I have to do it if my athletes aren't getting the challenge that I want them to get out of it. So super foundational just to understand what movements really underpin a lot of these drills. So now for the videos of all of the drills, and I want you to look at hips. So basically how well the athletes, or this is me for these, separate the hips and the shoulders. I want you to see mainly the front foot, but a big part of multi-directional speed also is, can the athlete use both shins? So can they use the first shin to create the movement and then really jump off the back shin to cover some ground? And then also kind of as I progress, so we go, straight sideways, which is the easiest, into backwards diagonal, which is medium, and then straight back would be the hardest. Notice how, all these things look pretty similar, and you can sense the just logical flow of going one to the next to the next. So we have our quarter hip flips, and I think it's interesting. So basically just 45 degrees. I'll play this one again. That the arms work opposite the legs to keep that balance. And that's one of those things that you don't have to talk about. But again, it's important to put athletes in this position where their body's going to figure it out kind of automatically or self-organize. So basically, can you turn your hips 45 degrees, but keep your shoulders square? Bounce the feet, point, point, point. So again, just a super simple warm-up drill, just do for maybe the first phase, right? And then you probably don't need to anymore, but that's where I start with all this stuff. Then we have and when watching all of these videos, you should be able to say the name of the exercise by watching it. So this is bounce to a sideways one step. So just one step sideways, and then I stopped, and then I walked back. So notice how bounce the feet, make a nice shin angle, big jump, controlling the shoulders, staying balanced. Then this is going to be crossover and return. A one step and return. So bounce the feet, out, back. And then I'll play this one again. And notice how on both of these steps, out and back, super nice shin angles. Bounce the feet, controlling the balance and everything. Oh, RIP, I thought I filmed these, but I didn't. A sideways one shuffle and stop, and then a shuffle and back. Now, I have the shuffle in the other directions, but basically just not straight sideways. You'll see the shuffle coming up. So this is going to be a crossover one step. So keeping the shoulders pretty square or as best possible. How far can you throw the knee across the body and gain a lot of ground and then recover and land in an athletic stance? You guessed it. Now we have our crossover and return. And I think crossover and return is one of the underratedly challenging, not impossible, but challenging drills that if athletes know how to do it, it'll look really good. And if they don't, it won't. And I'll place one again. So crossover there, come back. Always in an athletic stance, maybe end with a few bounces just to show control, cover a lot of ground, and boom. So this is our backwards 45 now, one steps. Again, can I turn the hips? And in one motion, I'll play this one again. Turn the hips, get that shin in a nice angle. Under control. You guessed it, one step and return. Now we'll go the other way. Then we'll go one shuffle, walk back, bounce, turn, one shuffle. Now we'll go crossover and return. And what I like about the return is you just have to be in control of your body and your momentum. And it's a super simple drill, again, that'll expose if the athlete is unorganized or their rhythm with their feet of the, step, come back is kind of all wonky and or their weight, is on the opposite foot that it should be and things like that. Now we have our crossover one steps. Again, can the head at least, and as best as possible, shoulders, I'll play this one again. Stay square while throwing the knee where you want it to go, and then seeing how far you can go while staying balanced and athletic. Now we have our crossover and return. So can that first shin, the closest shin, make the movement? And then can I really use the back shin to really kind of jump? Because I'm throwing my front knee, so I have to use my back leg to really push and cover some ground. Next, straight back. So I really like doing this drill series with a line, and it's just really good visual feedback on if the athlete can actually move straight backwards. And I know it sounds simple, but if you have a group of 10, 20 athletes, can you really say, oh, that was straight back, that wasn't, da-da-da, all these things, or just say, hey, we got 4 lines, 5 of you on each line spread out, and then you're trying to stay on the line as best possible, right? So I'll play this one just one more time. Hips out of the way, clear space, clear the hips, and then can you get your front foot to push backwards in this position, in a good position. 1 step and return, hip, pop, come back. Then we have our, you guessed it, 1 shuffle. Oh my gosh, you're so smart. I know, rocket science over here. 1 shuffle. Now we have our shuffle and return. Again, look at the hips and then how the feet and the shins reposition. So basically just look at where the feet go, because obviously the foot is attached to the shin. Next, I'm missing the crossover 1 step, RIP, but this is the crossover 1 step and return. So at this point, hopefully you can fill in the dots with your imagination. But this is one of those movements, again, it seems really simple, but to execute at a high level, I think if you were to do this with your athletes off the bat, you'd be surprised at how easy it is to expose the ones who are a little bit better at kind of all these things. Hip flip, crossover, cover a lot of ground, and then immediately come back. So next, these real life drills, so the videos of the actual drills, look at the hips and the shin angles again, and look at who is better at covering ground, and I'll try to highlight the athletes that do a better job of this. So when we cross over, we don't cross over just to put 1 foot in front of the other, obviously. We do it because it's a lot more effective in covering ground, because you can cross over the same distance in 2 shuffles with 1 crossover instead, but 1 crossover is a little bit quicker. And then notice how I organize these in order of kind of easiest and more chain of direction to more agility at the end. What variables are kind of being tweaked and modified as I go. So we have our 1 steps and return and combinations, and this can be a coach point or partner react. We can do it against resistance. There's the 4-cone drills that I'm a big fan of, and what I call shuffle shuttles, which I'll highlight. But just to say the names of some of these things. So first, this is just, I think in this video I was saying it, but this is a crossover 1 step on the line. And then I turn this into a little bit more, just a partner react kind of backwards 45. So during the 1 steps, which I'll show again, I don't think they did that good a job really being aggressive and really punching, but I would say, hey, cover more ground, and then can they end in a little bit more athletic of a stance. And then I like this drill. It gets both athletes engaged. And then just to say, hey, it's like you're marking someone in soccer. That's the term apparently. But I'll play this again and just look for the second drill. Backwards 45, crossover 1 steps again, but now the person on offense is picking the side. So I really liked how, and then that was a really good reposition of the shin on the front foot of the guy on defense, if you want to watch that one again. So now we're just going crossover shuffle, 1 steps, I guess. And then the coach is pointing. And then basically how far can you get without like jumping. So I'll show this one again. Crossover shuffle, recover. Crossover shuffle, athletic stance, crossover shuffle. Again, super simple drill, but with high effort and intensity, the athletes can get a lot out of it. So now we're going against resistance. This is just a crossover 1 step. If I could go back, I'd probably add I'll play this video again. I would probably have them kind of bounce their feet. Again, just to feel that athletic, kind of not stationary, kind of awkward start. So now we're going to go straight back. I think this is a crossover run, even though I'm a big fan of the crossover shuffle. So this is basically like 2 crossovers. Hip flip, and then I'll play this one again. Hip flip, crossover. Again, some resistance. Hip flip, move the shins, eyes forwards-ish, and then cover some ground. Should be able to make it 5 yards in a crossover shuffle. It's a good rule of thumb, which I'll get to later, but crossover shuffle 5 yards, and these big guys should be able to crush it easily. And this is a super easy way of a drill to keep all the athletes engaged, get some rest kind of built in. But this is what I did in the warm-ups. So this is our 4-cone, or there's no cones, but 4 direction, partner point. And then look, this is our 1 step in return. Oh my gosh. So now this is working all of the diagonals, going back to our kind of 8 vectors around us. I'll play this one again. One partner's pointing, bounce your feet in the middle, And then look at super nice shins. See, even with the little foot mess up, as long as you recover, it still turns into like a more realistic kind of nice drill. And then this is now partner point 4 directions, crossover and return. So again, these are all the drills and the sequences that we talked about earlier, just being able to progress them kind of as we go. And I wasn't really a fan of this rep. They're kind of just moving their feet, and they're not really moving that far. So that would be my feedback. Like, don't just move your feet to move your feet. Move your feet to go somewhere. And then this is what I would call a shuffle shuttle. Crossover shuffle out, crossover shuffle in, run and stop 5 yards. So a chance to get some a nice little deceleration dose in there as well. So again, if you have space, just get a bunch of athletes in a line. I'll play this one again. Crossover shuffle, go out. Crossover shuffle, come back. And you can just tell who does this stuff better and who does it, in my humble opinion. Make a competitive race, call out who got there first, who actually stops in the line. And then this is going to be a combination. So straight back, crossover shuffle, run and stop. Again, I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 athletes going, with only 10 yards total of space, right? And then next, I think this is a straight back, just run. Or maybe it was a crossover shuffle. There's college kids, high schoolers in here as well. You can kind of tell who has it and doesn't. I'll play this one again. And who just wants to run instead of shuffle if it was a shuffle. And this is one of my favorite drills, low key. So this is how I would do this as a little bit of conditioning, is I would do this continuously for like 7 or 10 seconds. This is there, back there, through the line. Or maybe it was supposed to be stopped, but they were middle school boys. But I'll play this through once, and there's athletes that do this really well, and then athletes that don't. Again, this drill, you don't have to say much, but it's going to expose. So I'll play 2 more times. Watch one of the 2 kids in the back, because they weren't that good at it. They get stuck on their outside foot. They're not really covering ground. And then watch the kid in the white shirt. Super balanced, gets all the way to the line, covers, just gliding across the ground. It just wasn't even close. So now a little bit more reactive, a little bit more competitive. One partner flips, the other partner picks a side. And then this was a little bit shorter of a drill. It was basically 2.5 yards. So you're starting in the middle of 5 yards. Cross over 2.5 yards and then run through the other 5. And this is the same thing, but instead of a partner flip, it is one partner jumps over a cone and then stop on the line, because we didn't have as much space, versus running through the line. Again, all these variables are so easy to change. Just mix and match based on what your training situation is. And then I'm doing this with my college baseball guys. Partner hip flip, crossover shuffle, run and stop. Again, such a simple drill. All I need is 10 yards of space. Super competitive. Really, really like this one. Now this is going to be a little bit more, so this would be like a partner mirror drill, where I think this is shuffle only, but I also like the crossover shuffle variation, but just to show what like a partner mirror drill. Again, you have a bunch of athletes, it's competitive. I like my rounds being like 7 seconds, but we can work on the skills of shuffling, crossing over, changing direction, controlling your shins in a fun way. Now let's get into our 4-cone stuff. So the athlete on the right is on offense, athlete on the left is on defense or mirroring. And I'll play this one twice, and then just watch like the ability to flip the hips, use the shins, and who's good at covering ground and who is not. Very smooth and fluid D1 soccer athletes. Good at keeping the eyes up, obviously, because there's a partner, and can the rest of your body kind of figure it out. And then now I have 6 athletes going at once. I'm just doing the pointing. This is a crossover and crossover back. The athlete in the front and middle does this drill pretty well. Watch these videos over and over again, and just watch a different athlete each time, and then just see who does, like the athlete front left, he ended up committing Ivy League. Who does this stuff well and who doesn't. I think that there's just so much good stuff in here. So this was a high schooler versus a middle schooler. So even if the athlete messes up, which they're going to mess up in sport, that's not the end of the world. Can they just commit and then flip their hips and then flip them again and just like commit to kind of finishing something? So we have an ex-WNBA player and a D3 athlete. And this is a video that you'll want to watch again, like who does this stuff really well. So this was like a top 10 D3 basketball program. And he did not look good, and I told him that for sure. And then this is someone who played overseas in the WNBA, and just like footwork, shins, hips, controls, just like freaking putting on a clinic. Such a good drill. So this video was in the beginning, and this is one guy that got a shot in the NFL, and one guy still waiting for a shot. Super high level. I think these this box is maybe like 5 by 5 yards or 4 by 4 yards. Again, super high intensity, super athletic, just such a high level execution. And then, one athlete's going back, one athlete's going forwards, flip flop. And yeah, that was just a super high level execution. So let's wrap all this up. Figure out your truth from these drill / information. Now, maybe some drills you're like, oh my gosh, that's so rudimentary. I wouldn't waste my time doing that drill with my athletes. Sweet, don't. Or, oh my gosh, I really like this drill. I'm going to steal it. Fantastic, go for it. Just tag me on Instagram when you post it. Or, oh, that's such a good drill. I wish you would have tweaked that. Go for it, right? What is your truth applied to your situation with your athletes? Do these yourselves and feel them. Me doing a crossover shuffle for 5 yards, I can actually get 6 yards. So when I have, high level athletes that can't do it, I'm like, hey, watch this. And I'm like, dude, I can get 6 yards without even trying. And I'm old, right? Like you can get 5 yards for sure. Or again, the straight back crossover and return, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's way harder than I thought. Like I'm going to be sure to like hammer home this one. Or maybe it's like a day one, that's the drill, and just see kind of how they do and kind of go from there. So do these yourselves and feel them, because you'll be able to coach them better. You'll be able to know what to expect, and you're going to be able to program them better as well. And then program these with your athletes and see what happens. So again, whether it's just a few drills, of all of these drills, just pick 3. Do 2, half the athletes are going, half the athletes are resting. Group 1 goes, flip, same drill, flip, and move on to the next one, right? So figure out how this fits for you. Use these drills, these concepts, these ideas, these sequences to mix and match in what you believe in and gets the best results for your athletes. So thanks for joining. Happy multi-directional speed training.